My name is Adrian Navarre, the CEO and founder of Ticker Trends. Ticker Trends takes pre-purchase intent data and converts it into actionable insights for financial markets. Essentially, our thesis is that many financial data businesses focus on lagged information or delayed information, tracking things like credit card transactions or purchases or expert interviews or panel data after something has already happened, whereas we at Ticker Trends focus on pre-purchase intent digital data before someone makes a purchase, when someone's considering it, researching it, when a business is looking at something. That's when we track it, that's when we identify it, we connect that to financial markets, and we provide a stream of alpha for clients, both in financial markets, but also B2B and corporates looking to get better business intelligence ahead of when consumers decide to change their purchasing habits or purchasing decisions, or even ahead of when businesses change their purchasing habits or purchasing decisions. My last video, I had a video called Scaling a Forecasting Business. This video was about 6 or 7 months ago. And what was really exciting for me is I looked back at that video recently, and since then I realized that we've moved offices twice in expansion. We've expanded offices twice since that video. One time in an office that I haven't made any videos in, and now to a new office that we just moved into this past week, which has been really exciting, just because a lot of my excitement and my ideas around how we could expand the business, how we could scale things, different sectors and areas we could get into that I talked about in that last video, ended up actually happening and ended up working in terms of our strategy for continuing to grow the business. I want to talk about why I didn't produce too much content for the past 6 or 7 months. I have been focusing a lot more on written content, and I come from a background of creating a lot of video content. When I was younger, I was creating videos on different financial concepts, and I always thought that video content was amazing at reaching a very unique audience. I thought that video content was the best form of content because there was less competition. To be able to put a camera on your face and talk to a camera, it's like infinitely harder to do that than to get in front of a document and type some words. And so that's why you'll find online that there's a lot of written content and maybe even short form content now of these reels and TikToks and things like that. But long form content in terms of engaging a user for a longer period of time is just really hard to do. And that's why when you create this long form video content, you can attract, there's way less competition in terms of people actually producing interesting content online. I decided to pivot towards written content because it was helpful for my business. It was helpful for Ticker Trends. And I learned a lot through doing that. I learned a lot about what makes good written content, about growing an audience in written content. And I think it's been invaluable for my business. So many of our competitors in this industry, and I might have talked about this in my other videos, so many of our competitors do not have any form of online presence. And I think that it's very natural with what we do because we're a business that tracks digital pre-purchase intent online. And so much of that pre-purchase intent comes from online discussion. And like maybe social media and leveraging these online outlets effectively. And like what we do as a business is we basically gauge how other businesses are performing in terms of leveraging these digital outlets. And it can be B2B businesses, it can be consumer businesses, it can be basically anything. So we know how important it is for businesses to leverage these outlets. And we've also we use our own secret sauce. Like we apply that to our own business, where within financial alternative data, virtually none of our competitors have any form of online presence, and they think that that's an advantage to them. However, we kind of know that that's a massive disadvantage, and that's why we can come into the industry and completely disrupt it, because no one else produces content or does content like we do. And that's because we natively have this experience from everyone at the company. And that also comes from my background of producing content on YouTube. But that was a whole tangent. Essentially what I'm saying is I found that written content was really valuable for our business. I got into that space for a while, and now we've been able to identify good strategies for written content, and I'm coming back to video content. And I've done these cycles in the past where I think that coming to video content is good once I've had experience, once I've done things in an industry where I have interesting things to talk about. And with Ticker Trends, what we've done so much of is we have so many amazing aspects of technology that we've built internally that we do not discuss significantly externally. And that is for good reason. It's to kind of defend our uniqueness in the industry and to defend our proprietary methods of data collection and of synthesizing information and delivering clients unique insights. Like so much of what we do is kind of has to be hidden behind this layer of, no one else knows how we do it. So that's what allows us to be unique. But I think there's a mixture of that where it's not just no one knows how to do it, but also it's just so much infrastructure now has been built up that it would just be exponentially harder for anyone to replicate beyond having worked on it for a couple of years, which now we've done, fortunately. So I think there's a lot of interesting things that I want to take from what we've done in scaling this business and share on the technology side in terms of breakthroughs and things that we use internally every single day at Ticker Trends. There are pieces of that I think bringing out into the world and discussing more and making videos about it, similar to my very early videos about using language models for time series forecasting. Like we've done that times 100 internally in terms of the applications of these new technologies for what we do. And so I think there's so many pieces of that I can talk about more on here and allow for more research and more interest from a wider audience to get involved in the type of research that we do at Ticker Trends. That's my little introduction of why I've started getting back into creating video content. I also want to reflect a little bit on what's allowed our business to continue to scale since my last video, because at the time I was talking about a lot of strategies of how we could scale in the future. As we've grown the Ticker Trends data business, I think what I've realized is the continued importance of being unique within the industry. When I first created Ticker Trends was something that clients could look at and they wouldn't be able to name a competitor to our offerings. As we've grown, I think that people start to connect you to certain industries or to certain incumbents in something, and so then in a way, you're, even if it's not directly or indirectly, getting compared to other services or other offerings from larger businesses than yourself. With Ticker Trends, we've gone through cycles of that, and what's always allowed us to continue to scale further is by focusing on what makes us unique and preventing ourselves from slipping into directly competing with an incumbent in the industry. So within the data industry, within financial insights, there's like a lot of data, a lot of approaches to data that is exceedingly competitive. This would be, I'm just going to use a common one, transaction data. Like transaction data, there are, 100 different providers of transaction data where they have some sample of people that they can collect transaction data from, and they try to convert that into insights for financial markets. I think that the trap that a lot of businesses get to is, I think maybe you start by being unique and then you scale into being just like your competitors. And we've faced that decision at certain times, right? It's when you grow, it's easy to take those resources and to say, hey, well, I can do this better than someone that's already doing it. So why don't we just start competing with them? Because we know they already have this large addressable market. We know that this already works. why can't, like just an example, why can't Ticker Trends take transaction data and compete with an incumbent in transaction data? Now, that could be great, and it's an opportunity in the future. But that being said, the second you start doing that, you start getting directly compared to that other incumbent that's already invested 20 times the amount you have into building an offering around that type of data. So I think what we've done that's worked